Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we are continuing our ongoing coverage of the civil war taking place inside of the former state of Ethiopia. And very important news today that is going on, that has occurred within the last 24 hours or so. It would appear that Abiy loyalist forces have suffered a major defeat within the area near Kobo, both inside of Kobo, on the outskirts of Kobo, and to the north and to the east of Kobo as well. So as we know, Tigray Defense forces were conducting a two-pronged attack to the east and to the west of Kobo along these two mountain ranges, but more importantly, the Zobel Mountains in this locale, right here where my cursor is kind of circling around, was of key importance for the Tigray Defense forces. And again, this is one of the routes of advance for Tigray Defense forces, and we've heard reports that there were significant battles taking place in and around the Zobel Mountains. And then finally, which culminated in a direct Tigray Defense Force operation into the city of Kobo as well. And we know now that the city of Kobo has fallen to Tigray Defense Forces. What's more important is the level of casualties and the disastrous outcome for Abiy loyalist forces that occurred in the battles around Kobo. It's almost like history is repeating itself, except it seems to be happening quicker this time. As the conflict had been going on, and kind of we observed this lull in fighting. We saw this ceasefire, and then we saw this continued buildup and mobilization by the Tigray Defense Force. But we also saw it on the Abiy loyalist side as well. And unfortunately for the Abiy loyalist side, they were also fighting the Oromo Liberation Army in other parts of the former state of Ethiopia. And that has sapped the morale by fighting the Oromo Liberation Army during the course of this conflict. And I had anticipated that we did know that the level of morale in the ENDF, or the Abiy loyalist forces, was very low, and their proficiency was also very low. We do not feel at this point the ENDF, also known as obviously the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, or the Abiy loyalist formations, are really in any shape to conduct a war at the current moment. They do not appear to be a very led force, and they do not appear to be a very motivated fighting force. And that is a recipe for disaster. And I think we have seen the early stages of what could be a complete disaster for the Abiy loyalist forces. Again, all defensive operations around Kobo have ceased by the Abiy loyalist forces, as they have been militarily defeated within the confines, both east-west and in Kobo, and have fled south. Some have reported a fairly disarrayed retreat to the south as the TDF continue to advance behind them. Additionally, not only that, the Tigray Defense Forces then moved south, seizing control of this town here along the A2 highway of Kobo Robot, and fighting is now being reported on the outskirts of Wacho, which is right here. I'll try to scroll down where you can see. So the next important target for the Tigray Defense Forces, depending on what their operational strategy is and what the war goal is, would be Waldia in this area here. We've already received reports that the civilian population is attempting to vacate Weldia. At the same time, we've heard reports and continued reports that the Abiy loyalist forces are trying to prevent civilians from fleeing some of these cities. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in regards to some of these civilians that are being instructed to stay in position in Weldia, in Kobo Robot, in Wacho, and assist, quote unquote, the security forces by engaging the Tigray Defense forces. So that is a interesting development, but it appears that generally speaking, the civil population wants nothing to do with this and is trying to get the hell out of Dodge. But right now, again, things are really falling apart for the Abiy loyalist forces. No one had anticipated such a quick, within a matter of 24, 48 hours, that the Tigray Defense Forces would seize Kobo, completely break the Abiy loyalist lines, eviscerate the Abiy loyalists in the Zobel Mountains, and then proceed south and are now threatening Weldia, which is a vital road junction. You have the A22 kind of coming from the east, you have the B22 from the west, and then the A22 continues south. So this will be a if Weldia is this quickly captured by the Tigrayan Defense Forces, this is utter disaster for the Abiy loyalist forces. Now, what is the war plan and war goal right now for the Abiy loyalist forces? It could be to try and get the Tigrayan Defense Forces deeper into the Amhara region before trying to conduct counterattacks. Now that's a really wild call at this point, given that the Abiy loyalist forces had plenty of time to mount defensive operations, to prepare defensive operations around Kobo. They had the ability to entrench areas near the Zobel Mountains north of Kobo and make it very, very difficult for the Tigrayan Defense Forces. But as we can see, that did not happen. Now, is it simply a matter that the Abiy loyalist forces just really have no morale, and they just don't want to fight at this point, and they're just retreating? That is a very good possibility. We do know there was fighting, and we do know that the ENDF, or the Abiy loyalist forces, and Fano and some of the other Amhara regional forces did take significant casualties in the fighting that occurred to the west and east and north of Kobo. But right now, the TDF is in Kobo. They are in Kobo Robot, and there's fighting near Wacho, which is due south of Kobo Robot in this area, and they are continuing, by all reports that I have, they are moving towards Weldia at a very rapid pace, and they are facing a disorderly mob for all intents and purposes, the level of resistance of the Abiy loyalist forces. So it'll be very interesting if the Abiy loyalist forces are able to get things together and start mounting successful defensive operations, or is the ENDF, the Abiy loyalist forces, just spent? And could we be looking at regime change if we see an uptick, in which we are seeing an uptick in the operational tempo of the Oromo Liberation Army, combined with this Tigrayan Defense Force juggernaut that is heading south? It could be very, very, very difficult in the days and weeks to come for the Abiy loyalist forces. We'll have more to come as we watch what is happening very, very closely. Again, as always, thanks for joining us. And again, as always, have a good day.